Have you ever been humiliated publicly by someone who didn't care how deeply they cut you? Maybe they mocked you in front of others. Maybe they laughed a little too loud at your expense. Maybe, just for a moment, they made you feel small while everyone watched. But here's the truth they'll never teach you. You don't need to snap back to earn respect. You don't need to win the argument. You just need to rise. And when you rise quietly, but powerfully, something shifts. You don't just recover your dignity, you make them regret ever trying to steal it from you. In this video, I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. No fake positivity. No just be the bigger person fluff. I'm going to show you the brutally honest, psychologically backed ways to gain real respect after someone tries to humiliate you. Because when someone attacks your pride in public, your silence, your self-growth, and your eventual comeback should haunt them far louder than your words ever could. Let's begin. Oh, and if you're someone who craves deep, thought-provoking insights about Stoic philosophy, real self-improvement, and how to navigate life with clarity and power, you love my free newsletter. Every Sunday, I send out raw, impactful lessons, bold truths, and practical strategies to help you level up your mind and your life. No fluff, just real value. Want in? Hit the link below and get life-changing content straight to your inbox. And if you're a brand looking to partner with authentic, high-impact content and a deeply engaged audience, feel free to reach out via the email in the description. Let's build something meaningful together. 1. Let your results slap them in the face. Let me take you back to a moment I'll never forget. It wasn't a big event, just a casual get-together, a few friends, some acquaintances. I made a small mistake while talking, a slip of the tongue, nothing major. But then he stepped in. You know the type, loud, craving attention, thrives on sarcasm and shallow validation. He turned that tiny mistake into a performance. Mocked me, exaggerated it, laughed harder than the joke even deserved just to make sure everyone was looking at him. And the others? They laughed too, not because it was funny, but because laughing is easier than being the next target. I stood there, not silent because I had nothing to say, but because I made a decision. I knew if I fired back, I'd be giving him exactly what he wanted: my attention, my energy, my frustration. So I gave him nothing. No reaction. No defense, just a nod. Not a nod of agreement, but a nod to myself, a silent promise. You get your moment now, but I'll take the spotlight later. From that day forward, I went dark. No social media. No long explanations, no group chats. I stopped trying to talk my worth and started building it. I leveled up in silence, woke up earlier, trained harder, read more, worked deeper, cut off distractions, distanced myself from the ones who laughed. I started treating self-investment like survival because, in a way, it was. It wasn't just about revenge. It was about redemption. And every single day, I imagined their faces watching me grow, watching me evolve, watching me win. I visualized it like a scene in a movie. 6 months pass, and now I'm sharper, fitter, more focused than I've ever been. Guess what happened next? Out of nowhere, I get a DM, and you can probably guess who it was. Yep, the same guy who once humiliated me in front of everyone. But this time, he wasn't laughing. He wasn't mocking. He wasn't the loudest voice in the room anymore. He was asking for advice. He wanted to know how to grow a brand, how I built discipline, how I managed to get so far ahead so fast. And in that moment, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel pride. I just felt clarity. I had already won. Not because I responded, not because I gave him advice, but because I didn't need to respond. My results were speaking for me, louder than any comeback ever could. And here's the uncomfortable truth no one wants to tell you. Snapping back with insults is loud but short-lived. Clapping back with results? That's quiet. That's undeniable. And that kind of silence, it's humiliating on a whole other level. Because here's the game they're playing. When someone disrespects you publicly, they want attention. They want you to react. They want to see you flinch, argue, break. So don't give them what they crave. Give them something they never expected. Outcomes. Let them watch you rise. Let them watch you become someone they no longer have access to, someone they can't reach, can't laugh at, and definitely can't compete with. Let your transformation turn their cheap jokes into distant memories. Let your discipline expose their laziness. Let your consistency make their chaos obvious. And let your silence become a mirror, one that reflects everything they tried to hide about themselves. Because when you grow, and they don't, your very existence becomes a reminder, a living, breathing billboard that they lost. So don't chase revenge. Don't beg for respect. Don't waste time defending your name in the noise. Instead, build, evolve, and let your success slap them in the face without ever lifting your hand. To publicly ignore the myth. There's one move that holds more power than 1,000 words. It's this: acting like they don't exist, especially when they expect you to acknowledge them. Let's be real. People who humiliate you in public, they're not just being rude. They're making a power play. They want control over your emotions. They crave your reaction: anger, embarrassment, shame, because your reaction feeds their ego. But here's where the tables turn. You don't give them a reaction. You don't argue. You don't even look their way. You erase them, publicly, coldly, like their presence is irrelevant. Let me tell you a story. There was this guy I used to hang out with. Loud, arrogant, always trying to one-up people to boost his image. One day, during a casual hangout, he called me out in front of everyone, joking about something personal I had shared with him in confidence. The whole group laughed. I didn't. I just stared at him. Blank face. No reaction. No anger. No explanation. No defense. And from that moment on, he was cut off. No eye contact. No head nods. No small talk. Just a silent wall between us. I poured my time into myself mentally, physically, emotionally, and people started to notice. I wasn't chasing social approval anymore. I had standards. I had presence. Then months later at another gathering, he walked up to me in front of the same crowd and said, "Hey bro, we good now?" I looked at him, said nothing, and walked right past him. No smile, no nod, just pure, unshakable silence. And right there, In front of everyone, he looked tiny. Not because I embarrassed him, but because I didn't need to. I did something he couldn't. I kept my power. Now let's get one thing straight. People love to say, be the bigger person. But being the bigger person doesn't mean keeping the door open for people who disrespected you. It means knowing your worth. It means understanding who no longer deserves access. It means protecting your energy not out of spite, but out of self-respect. You don't need to fake forgiveness just because ignoring someone makes others uncomfortable. And no, you don't need to force a fake smile just to look mature. Because real maturity, it's not about politeness. It's about control. Controlling your energy. Controlling your attention. Controlling who gets to stand beside you. And that's exactly why ignoring someone publicly starves their ego. They were expecting chaos, a fiery comeback. But you gave them nothing, not even a glance. And that silence, it shakes the entire room. Because people expect noise. They expect drama. But when you respond with pure stillness, no reaction, no validation, no tension, you flip the entire power dynamic. They thought they had embarrassed you. They thought they won. But suddenly, they're the ones left standing alone looking foolish, talking to someone who's already moved on. And the best part, you didn't have to shout. You didn't have to curse. You didn't have to defend a single word. You didn't even have to explain yourself. You simply showed the world, without saying a word, that this person no longer holds any value in your life. And nothing cuts deeper than that. Because here's the truth. Respect isn't earned by being loud. It's earned through restraint, through power under control, through refusing to acknowledge people who no longer deserve your time. That's how kings move. That's how real bosses operate. They don't argue. They don't beg. They exclude. So when someone disrespects you in public and then tries to act like it never happened, don't meet them halfway. Don't give them the comfort of a fake smile or a forced "we're good." Publicly ignore them. Let your silence speak. Let it echo louder than any comeback ever could. Let them feel it standing there in a room full of people realizing they've been cut off. They've been demoted. They're no longer part of your world. And the audience, the people watching, they'll respect you even more. Not because you had the cleverest reply, but because you had the discipline to say nothing at all. 3. Speak once, and never again. Here's a move that will shake the ground beneath their feet. Say what you need to say clearly, calmly, powerfully, then close the door. Walk away. Let them live in the echo of your words. Most people won't admit this, but here's the reality. The moment you start over-explaining yourself to someone who's already disrespected you, you've already lost. Why? Because what they really want isn't clarity, it's control. They want you chasing their approval. They want you explaining, justifying, pleading so they feel important, so they feel powerful. But when you speak once without emotion, without desperation, and never again, you take the air out of the room. You remind everyone who holds the power. Let me share a moment I'll never forget. Years ago, I worked with a guy who thought he ran the show. Publicly charming, privately manipulative. One day, in a team meeting, he took a cheap shot at me, right there in front of everyone. Blatant, petty, designed to humiliate. Everyone turned toward me waiting to see what I'd do. I didn't flinch. I looked straight at him and said, calmly, "Director, if you truly believe that, then I've clearly overestimated your integrity. That's it. No raised voice, no emotion, just cold, cutting truth." Then I leaned back, crossed my arms, and let the silence stretch. He laughed nervously, tried to explain, blamed someone else, looked for support. But it was over. The moment had burned into everyone's mind. Not his insult, but my restraint. I never spoke on it again. Never brought it up. Never gave it another ounce of my energy. And to this day, that's what people remember. Not what he said, but how I handled it. Here's why this approach works. 1. It makes your words unforgettable. People are used to arguments and repetition. But when you speak once with confidence, it lands like a sledgehammer. It's not a debate, it's a declaration. 2. It signals unshakable self-worth. You don't need to defend your name 10 times. You don't need permission to stand in your truth. You know who you are, and that alone silences the room. 3. It exposes their insecurity. When you stop reacting, they start unraveling. They scramble to regain the power they just lost. And you're already 10 steps ahead, walking away while they stay stuck in the mess they created. Here's a hard truth. You don't owe your truth to anyone who already twisted it the first time and the last time. You don't owe a follow-up. You don't owe them clarity. You don't owe them your voice. What you do owe is yourself, your peace, your power. Let them talk. Let them twist your words. Let them whisper, speculate, and build entire stories in their heads. Because if they truly deserved your time, your explanation, your presence, they never would have tried to humiliate you in the first place. So what should you do? Speak once, but not out of emotion, not from rage. Speak from power. Be direct. Be sharp. Be clear. Say your truth, not to hurt, not to win, but to close the door. Then give them nothing. No reaction. No expression. Just silence. That silence. It's not weakness. It's not avoidance. It's your armor. It's the message that says, "I'm done playing your game." And trust me, nothing haunts a disrespectful person more than realizing they no longer have access to you. Not your attention, not your emotion, not even your acknowledgement. You know what weak people do? They send long paragraphs to explain themselves. To people who never cared, they post vague social media statuses. They beg mutual friends to clear the air. They perform. They chase. But the strongest people, they speak once. And then they disappear into progress. They leave the others to spin in confusion, trying to decipher what just happened. That's not arrogance. That's self-respect. You're not just protecting your peace, you're commanding it. So next time someone embarrasses you publicly or questions your character in front of others, don't bark, don't beg, don't explain yourself to the undeserving. Say what needs to be said, with backbone, with clarity, with fire. Then walk away and let them drown in the noise they created. Because real strength, it isn't loud. It doesn't fight to be heard. It speaks once and never again. 4. Use humor as a dagger. No, let's get something straight. If someone humiliates you publicly, The worst thing you can do is get emotional. That's what they want. They want the flinch. They want the tears. They want the panic, because your reaction feeds them. But there's one move that completely flips the dynamic, one response that turns the entire room against them without you even raising your voice. A calm, calculated joke. Not a joke to entertain. A joke that exposes. The kind that slides under their ego, dances across the surface, and cuts deep before they even realize they've been hit. Let me give you an example. I was in a meeting about 10 people. One of those overconfident types, way too eager to be loud, suddenly turns and takes a swing at me. He says, "Honestly, I'm not even sure you really understand what the client's asking for." That wasn't a question. That was a public slap designed to embarrass me in front of everyone. Now, the old version of me would have probably gone into a full explanation, trying to defend every detail. But this time, I paused. I took a breath. Then I looked him dead in the eye and smiled. "You're absolutely right," I said. "Let's all slow down to your pace." The room went dead silent, and then awkward chuckles. A few eyes widened. He didn't say another word, not because I shouted, not because I overpowered him, but because I made it crystal clear. I'm not the one to play with. And I moved on like I'd just brushed lint off my shoulder. Meeting continued. Power shifted. Here's why humor works so brilliantly in moments of public disrespect. First, it confuses your enemy. They expect anger. They want emotional chaos. But when you smile and respond with something smart, sharp, and unexpected, they freeze. They don't know what hit them or what to do next. Second, it shifts the room in your favor. People admire confidence. They're drawn to composure. But what they respect most, when someone handles disrespect with poise and flips the moment on its head. A perfectly timed joke turns their attempt at humiliation into their own public embarrassment. The crowd, whether they say it out loud or not, starts to side with you. Sometimes they laugh nervously. Sometimes they just fall quiet. But the moment becomes yours. 3. It makes you memorable. Fades. Arguments blur. Emotional runs are forgotten by next week. But a savage, perfectly timed one-liner that lingers. People replay it. They whisper about it afterward. They quote it. And the person you joked about? Yeah, they'll hear it in their head for weeks. Want a few examples to keep in your back pocket? That was a bold take. Wrong, but bold. You clearly misunderstood me, but I admire your confidence in staying wrong. I'd argue with you, but I like to win. I love how you said that like it actually made sense. You don't need to swing hard. You just need to aim well. Because here's the truth. Most people who try to humiliate others in public are acting out of insecurity. They crave dominance. They feed on control. And nothing breaks the delusion faster than someone who stands calm in the storm and smiles. Someone who can take the blow, smile back, and land a verbal jab so smooth it sounds like a compliment until it burns. Now let's get real for a second, really real. You will not gain respect after public humiliation by being soft. You won't earn it by crying, by explaining, by begging people to see your side. You gain it by rising, by looking them in the eye with a smirk, by clapping back without raising your voice, by flipping the scene so effortlessly they look like the fool. That's when people say, "Damn did. You hear what she said? He shut it down without even blinking." That's when you're no longer just unbothered. You're dangerous, and in a world built on ego and fear, that earns respect. Because the sharpest blades, they don't scream, they don't thrash around. They glide quiet, clean, and deadly dots, so next time someone tries to humiliate you, don't explode. Don't fold, jab, smile, walk away. Let them have their moment. Let them laugh with the room while quietly bleeding on the inside. 5. Cut off anyone who laughed with them. Let's get brutally honest now. When someone humiliates you in front of others, your eyes immediately go to them, the one who threw the shot. But the second glance, that's where the real pain often hides. It's the ones who laughed, the ones who smirked, the ones who sat quietly, watching you burn even though they were supposed to have your back. And here's the harsh truth. Those people, they're worse than the one who disrespected you. Why? Because disrespect from an enemy is expected, but betrayal from someone who calls you bro, sis, or friend, that hits somewhere deeper. I remember it clearly back in college. Someone I considered a friend made a joke about my financial situation, loud enough for the entire room to hear. He was always the class clown, so people laughed. But what stung the most, it wasn't him. It was the 3 people sitting right next to me, the ones who laughed along with him, the same ones I had shared food with, studied with, defended when others spoke behind their backs. I didn't say a word, but I made a mental note. And from that moment forward I was done. No more group chats, no more weekend catch-ups, no more fake smiles or pretending we were good. I cut them off cold and clean. And you know what? Not a single one of them came back to ask why. Because they knew. They knew they laughed when they shouldn't have. They knew they chose comfort over character. They chose sides. And that's the lesson. Silence is a choice. So is laughter. So is loyalty. And so is betrayal. Here's why cutting off people who laugh with your enemy is necessary. 1. They've revealed their true allegiance. People don't laugh at a joke that hurts someone they genuinely respect. If they laughed while you were being targeted, they enjoyed it. Even if they tried to downplay it later and say, "It was just a joke. I didn't mean it." You've heard those words before, haven't you? But let's be clear, laughter is agreement in disguise. If they laughed while you were being humiliated, they weren't neutral. They chose a side, and it wasn't yours. 2. Keeping them around means weak boundaries. Let's say you brush it off. You keep texting them. You still hang out. Still invite them to things like nothing ever happened. Do you know what that tells them? I can cross your line again and you let it slide. And the next time, they'll push even harder, because now they know you're not going to do anything. That makes you look weak. You gain no respect by keeping people who disrespected your dignity. You don't look loyal. You look desperate. 3. Your presence is valuable. Treat it like it is. Because if you want people to respect you, you need to show them you don't tolerate subtle betrayal. You don't cling to fake friends. You don't hand out second chances to people who mock your pain. You're not needy. You're not desperate for connection. And if someone can't stand beside you when things are uncomfortable, they don't get to stand beside you when you rise. Now let's talk about what happens when you don't cut them off. Little by little, your energy starts to fade. You become quieter. You start to shrink yourself. And without even realizing it, they joke again. They talk behind your back. They use you to feel better about their own small lives. And worse, you start to believe you deserve it. So let me say something that might sting, but needs to be said. If you tolerate snakes, don't be surprised when they bite. You don't need a dramatic confrontation. You don't need a final speech. You don't even need closure. You just stop responding, stop inviting, stop trusting. That's it. Here's a truth most people won't tell you. Everyone's watching. Not just your enemy, but the entire room. They're watching how you respond. When you're disrespected, and they take notes. If they see you forgive too quickly, they label you as someone who can be walked over again. But if they see you move with precision, cut off the wrong people, elevate without drama, grow without bitterness, you become someone they respect. You become a threat, because now you're not just talking about standards, you're living them. So next time you're humiliated in public, don't just focus on the one who threw the punch. Look around. See who laughed, who smirked, who stayed silent when they could have said something. Those people, they're not your friends. They're just waiting for the next chance to laugh at your expense. And when respect is gone, there's only one move left. Distance. Cut them off quietly. No announcements, no warnings, just absence. And watch how your life feels lighter, how your circle grows tighter, how your standards create space for better people. 6. Make them regret picking on you. Here's the part no one tells you. When someone humiliates you, they're not just trying to make a joke, they're testing you. They're betting that you'll back down, that you'll stay quiet, that you'll take the hit and carry on like nothing happened. And that's exactly where you flip the narrative. You don't explode. You don't scream. You don't chase revenge. You respond with evolution. You make them regret underestimating you, not with noise, but with transformation. Let me tell you a true story. Back at my first job, I had a manager who humiliated me in front of the whole team. He laughed at my ideas, cut me off mid-sentence, rolled his eyes. At one point, he said, loud and proud, "Let's leave the real decisions to people who actually know what they're doing." The entire room laughed. I didn't. My chest burned. But I didn't flinch. I didn't speak. I just made a quiet promise to myself. You'll eat those words, and I won't have to say a thing. I went silent, but not submissive. I stopped trying to impress anyone. Instead, I locked in. I studied harder. I took on the toughest clients, the hardest projects, the work no one wanted. I stayed late. Not for them, for me. And 3 months later, I closed a deal that literally saved the company's quarter. Guess who had to stand in front of the entire team and give me credit? Yeah, him. He couldn't even look me in the eye, because deep down he knew. He handed me the mic to the wrong person that day. Here's how you make them regret ever picking on you. 1. Become the person they said you'd never be. The fastest, most poetic way to silence a critic? Become everything they swore you'd never be. They called you dumb, outlearn them. They mocked your ideas, outbuild them. They laughed at your dreams, outlive them. Let their words be fuel, not wounds. Let every insult become the foundation of your future. Because when you transform into what they never believed possible, they'll realize they were never mocking you, they were mocking their own limitations. 2. Build in silence. Come back empowered and run around announcing your comeback to the world. That's just noise. That's emotional leakage dressed up as ambition. Move quietly. Let your work speak. Let your growth speak. By the time they realize how far you've come, it'll be too late. They won't be able to take back the damage they did. And worse, they won't be able to take their eyes off what you've become. 3. Don't block them. Let them watch. Forget what the cliches say. The best revenge isn't served cold. It's served visible, on a glowing screen, in full HD. Let them scroll. Let them watch your name get mentioned with respect. Let them feel the distance grow between who you were and who you are now. You don't need to message them. You don't need to prove anything. Just live so fully that your life becomes their private punishment. Let's be controversial for a second. Some people say, forgive and forget. Here's the truth. Forgive, sure, but never forget. Why? Because pain has a memory, and when you use that memory correctly, it doesn't become trauma. It becomes motivation. They picked on you when you were at your lowest. Let them see you now standing at your strongest. No need to humiliate them back. No need for revenge. Because the most powerful regret isn't triggered by confrontation. It's triggered by the moment they realize they tried to bury someone who couldn't be broken. Here's the cold truth. Nobody regrets bullying the one who stays quiet and disappears. But they do regret underestimating the one who rises in silence, walks back into the room, unrecognizable, commands every eye in the room without even trying. That version of you. They won't see it coming. And when they do, it'll be too late. 7. Stand on your standards. Let's make something crystal clear. When someone humiliates you publicly, they're not just joking. They're testing you. They're trying to find the line. How far can I go before they finally push back? And the way you respond, it says everything, not just to them, but to everyone watching silently on the sidelines. This is where your standards matter. Not the ones you talk about, the ones you enforce. The invisible lines that say, this is what I allow, and this is where it ends. No explanations needed, no long conversations, just action. Let me share a personal story. I used to have a friend who made everything a joke. Except they weren't jokes, they were low blows with a laugh. Insults disguised as humor. Comments about my appearance, my family, my relationships. Always followed by the same line, relax. I'm just kidding. One day, in front of a group, he joked about something deeply personal, something I had trusted him with in private. The group laughed. I didn't. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "Rai, that's the last time you'll ever speak to me like that." He chuckled, thought I was bluffing. I wasn't. I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I just walked away. And that was it. No more calls, no texts, no interaction. Done. And you know what happened? Within weeks, People who used to laugh with him started drifting toward me. Not because I begged for support, not because I told my side, but because when you have standards, real standards, you become magnetic. Not because everyone likes you, but because they respect you. Let's break it down. 1. Standards are not rules. They're boundaries with consequences. Anyone can say they have boundaries. But if there's no consequence for crossing the line, it's just a suggestion. If someone crosses the line once and you let it slide, nothing will change. They'll cross that line again, this time with even more confidence. Why? Because you trained them to. Your standards should feel like concrete. Step out of line and they hit a wall. No warning, no softness, just reality. 2. People will test you to see if you're serious. Some people will tease you, mock you, disrespect you on purpose. Why? Because they want to see if you're all talk, if you fold, if you backtrack, if you laugh it off. You've just taught them that your boundaries are flexible. But if you stand firm, if you follow through, you've earned one of two things: their respect or their distance. And honestly, both are wins. 3. You will lose people, but you will gain power. Let's stop sugarcoating it. Holding your standards will make some people uncomfortable. They'll leave. Let them. Because when you raise the bar, the ones who can't reach it fall off. And that's not loss. That's alignment. They'll call you arrogant. They'll say, you've changed. And you know what? Damn right you have. Growth does look like arrogance to people who settled. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't have standards. They just want to be liked. So they laugh at the jokes, smile through the insults, let people talk down to them, all to avoid conflict. But that's not humility. That's self-abandonment. And when you finally stand on your standards, something shifts. People adjust how they talk to you. Not because you demanded respect, but because you commanded it. Through your tone, your silence, your response. Here's how it works in practice. Someone disrespects you once. You address it once. They do it again. You walk. No debate. No emotional explosion. Just distance. And above all, you never lower your standards just to keep someone who makes you feel small. Because standards are how you teach the world to treat you. Let someone humiliate you and you let it slide. You just gave them permission to do it again. But if you draw a clear line and stick to it, you've built something powerful. A boundary even the boldest won't dare to cross. That's how you earn real respect. Not through shouting, not through fighting back, but by standing tall, unshaken, even when the whole room is laughing. Let them laugh. Because one day, you'll become the lesson. The truth is, you don't earn respect by reacting in the moment. You earn it by transforming in silence when they least expect it. Let them mock. Let them whisper. Let them write punchlines about you behind your back. Because while they're stuck in the same shallow cycle, you're rising. Quietly, purposefully. And by the time they realize what you've become, you won't just be different. You'll be untouchable. Not because you got louder, but because you became unshakable. This world is filled with people who will test your boundaries, just to see if you love yourself enough to defend them. So show them. Show them that you don't need to argue to prove your worth. That your glow doesn't dim just because someone tried to shade it. That you can take disrespect and turn it into domination, because here's the part no one says out loud. The strongest revenge is becoming someone they have to respect. Even if they'll never admit it. Even if they'll never say a word. So the next time someone tries to humiliate you, smile, say nothing, and get to work. Because you don't need applause. You need silence and a storm building behind it. And when you finally speak again, it won't be with words. It'll be with results. If this message hit home for you, don't just watch and scroll like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And follow Stoic Capsule for more powerful insights like this. Let's keep growing, not just louder, but wiser. Not just stronger, but unshakable. This is your power. Protect it.